Hello, all my paranormal enthusiasts, and welcome. And thank you for joining me on my new channel, 5D TV Strange Happenings. My name is Courtney, and I am going to be your ghost host with the most original paranormal content that is. So put your seatbelts on, buckle up, and join me for this crazy and wild ride as we enter into our very first episode, my first ghostly apparition. There was one summer when I was about 9 or 10 years old when me, my brother, and my grandmother all flew across the country to Des Moines, Iowa to spend a couple weeks with my aunt. She had purchased a home within the last couple of years, and we were going to stay. And upon arriving within a few days, my aunt already let us know that there was a possibility that the house has some strange phenomenon. Maybe it was possibly haunted. Well, what was interesting for me, at this point in my life, had believed in ghosts because, of course, I watch Sci-Fi Channel all the time and all those crazy stuff, but never actually experienced anything for myself. So anyways, I'm about 9 or 10 years old, and we're at my aunt's house, and she had a 2-story house that also included a basement downstairs. Now, when I went into the basement, it was a very tense feeling, very uncomfortable. I did not want to be down in that basement. I would not go down there alone. I would make my brother go downstairs and turn on the light before I would go down there. If he left, I had to leave the basement too. Very uncomfortable. In addition to the basement being pretty uncomfortable, when I would go upstairs, I also would have a very uncomfortable feeling. So in general, I kind of just like to keep myself in the main story of the house. Now, with that said, my aunt said that she, experienced some strange sounds in the home, footsteps, toilet flushing upstairs. And on my birthday, my grandma took me and my brother fishing. So we walked a few miles down to some kind of small pond. And after the pond, when we were walking back, well, Des Moines, Iowa in the summertime with humidity is freaking outrageous. And when I was younger, I used to suffer a lot from heat stroke. So we were walking back from fishing on my birthday, and I actually ended up collapsing in a apartment complex. And there in the apartment complex, a worker came and he actually hosed me down, brought my temperature back down. We ended up being able to walk the rest of the way home. But when I arrived at my aunt's house, because I suffered from heat stroke, I was pretty exhausted and I didn't really feel well. So I ended up actually falling asleep on the downstairs couch. So the night of my birthday, my aunt and my uncle actually went out for the evening on a date, and my grandmother and my brother had already gone upstairs. I had been asleep for a few hours already on the couch. They probably assumed that I was going to be there for the rest of the night. And when I awoke from my sleep of exhaustion, there was a dry lightning storm going on. And I've always been attracted to extreme weather situations and volcanoes and tornadoes and what have you. So I'm from California. We never get extreme weather. So this was quite an experience for me. And the way that my aunt's house was set up, so there's basically a living room area here, and then the kitchen area, and then it goes into a dining area on the right side. And kind of attached to the living room kitchen area is a room that they call a sunroom. And a sunroom usually typically has like is enclosed with screen or sometimes glass. In the case of my aunt's house, it was a glass panel room. And what you would do is you would just go through the screen door into the sunroom from the living room area. So I woken up from my sleep. I went over there. I'm watching the lightning because the lightning's going off like crazy. And in between flashing, something appeared. And what appeared was a ghostly apparition. It was of a tall, slender man. He had on a large hat, a coat that fell down below his knees. And of my opinion is that the clothing style was of old-timey fashion. I would say maybe the 1800s, late 1800s. And couldn't see any kind of face, any kind of really physical features. It was more just an outline and the light flashing behind it. At the time, I was kind of unsure. I'm like, is that a person outside? But as quickly as I'm running up the stairs to my grandma, I'm kind of like already trying to comprehend what I saw. Like, when I got up to my grandma's room, her and my brother were actually still awake. They were playing cards. And by this time, I'm crying. I'm really scared. I go to my grandma and I tell her, look, grandma. Well, actually, I didn't tell her, look, grandma. I'm crying my eyes out. My grandma's really worried. She's like, what happened? What happened? What's going on? Like, what's going on? And I told her what happened and what I saw. And God bless my grandmother's heart. She believed me. She didn't question me. She didn't tell me that I must have been dreaming. All she did was reassure me and try to calm me down. So at this point, I'm not going back downstairs. I'm staying in my grandmother's room with my brother. And my grandma goes downstairs to check to see if, I don't know, she's going downstairs. When she's downstairs, she heard the lock jiggling for the front door. And her assumption is, oh, that's Aunt Kathy and my uncle coming home. So let me go open the door for them. So she is hearing the jiggling of the lock and the door handle. And she turns on the porch light and looks outside, and there is no one there. So my grandma thinks this is really strange, and I don't know what my grandma was thinking, but she opens the door, looks outside, and there is nobody there. She comes upstairs and tells us what happened. Which I don't know why she would do that, because that scared me even worse. So she lets us know that someone might be possibly trying to get in the house. Nothing else ended up happening that night. My aunt and uncle came home. They came home pretty late, and it wasn't even until the next day that my grandma let them know what we had experienced. So this was my first ghostly apparition. In my experience, we don't normally see apparitions, ghosts, spirits, entities with our naked eye. What we do usually see them is in mirrors or the reflections of televisions or glass. But we especially tend to capture them on our highly evolved cameras, iPhones, and such. So this is my first time seeing a ghost apparition with my naked eye. So it's kind of a big deal, and I'm not sure why this happened to me this particular night. Is it because it was my birthday? Is it because it was time? Is it because that entity wanted to present itself? I don't have a clue. But one thing that I do find kind of interesting is over the years, I've heard the stories of the Slender Man, or there's several different names for it, but in my opinion, sometimes I kind of think that, hey, you know, the description of what people tend to describe as the Slender Man kind of fits the bill for what I saw, but I don't think he was as tall and as skinny as what other people describe. And to me, it just kind of seems like maybe it might just have been a ghost. But what I was saying about also my experience, so since then I have seen more things, and what I have come to find out is those things that are able to physically present themselves, especially to your naked eye, are usually that of malevolent forces, and they have bad intentions. They're trying to attach themselves or scare you, feed off your negative energy. And in this particular night, something presented itself physically. So I always come to think back at that, you know, was it a dark spirit or angry ghost? Some kind of spirit who is stuck in this dimension and is unable to transfer over. At the end of the day, seeing is truly believing. Once you've had your own paranormal experience, there is no going back. You can't unbelieve once you know something exists. It's one thing to be open-minded to the paranormal and the unexplained, but once you're a believer for life. So I just wanted to take a little second to thank all my viewers for joining me on this new channel, 5D TV Strange Happenings. And I just want to make sure that you like this video and subscribe for all future episode updates.